Welcome to HP FanFiction. Support me by subscribing the channel. Also, like and share the video to keep me motivated to make more videos like these. Triwizard Tournament. Lyra tilted her head to one side. A tournament? That sounds cool. Ginny appeared to be excited about it. I think I read about that one. Hermione was trying hard to remember. Wasn't it banned after some students died? Wait, seriously? Lavender asked. The Triwizard Tournament is an old tradition. A competition between champions from 3 different schools who will face 3 difficult tests to determine which one is the best. Dumbledore explained. 3 schools? Does this mean? Parvati said. Are we getting visitors from other schools? Lyra exclaimed. Boys? Lavender perked up. The headmaster waited for a bit before continuing. In 1 week we will receive students from 2 very prestigious schools into our walls. Those will be Beauxbaton and Durmstrang.
Once the last announcement concluded, the headmaster finally allowed the feast to begin.
Most of the students were in great spirits after learning about the tournament and the foreign students coming to Hogwarts. But even this was not enough to lift the spirits of many students from Hufflepuff. It wasn't until very recently, before the start of the classes, that it was finally revealed in the newspaper. The deaths of Amelia Bones and her niece Susan Bones were confirmed on the 2nd page of the Daily Prophet. The circumstances of their deaths had been skimmed over and were said to have been an unfortunate accident. It did not go into details, other than that it was caused by the partial collapse of their family manor. Susan had been a very beloved figure in Hufflepuff House. So many of the students were still in shock from her sudden death. Harry glanced over at the other side of the Great Hall. The Slytherin table was also devoid of laughs and smiles, but of course this was for a different reason. They didn't care for a dead Hufflepuff. Several of their students were missing, much like Blaise Zabini. The older Slytherins knew better about what was going on out there, but even the youngest ones could feel the tension in the air, and that made them very uneasy. Most of their parents were now on Voldemort's side, and those who weren't would soon have to make a decision, as was the case with Daphne and Tracy. A war had already begun, even though most people didn't know about it yet. The members of that house were the closest ones to people who knew what was truly going on behind the scenes. Harry's eyes landed on an empty chair next to Daphne, serving as a reminder of something he had to do. I need to tell her about it. Daphne had not brought up the matter of Pansy's absence, but he knew she was very much worried. After the day of the Quidditch finals and learning about Rookwood and his conversation with the headmaster, Harry felt the need to check a few things. There was one sure way to find out if someone was alive or dead, and that was to call upon their soul, something that only he could do. Calling the name of a living person would have no effect whatsoever, so when he said the name Pansy Parkinson and her spirit manifested in front of him, he learned of her death. He wanted to understand more about the circumstances surrounding her demise, but much like what happened with Rookwood, her soul appeared to be extremely damaged and could not remain in the mortal realm long enough to reveal any useful information. Harry then repeated the process with her mother. It was the same, and then he tried with Minister Parkinson. The man was dead too, which meant 2 things: that the person ruling the Ministry of Magic was an imposter, and that the one responsible for the death of Lord Rookwood was likely the same one who killed the Parkinson family. Or at least they used the same method. Lord Greengrass, the headmaster, and his father James had all mentioned noticing a sudden change of attitude in the minister. That must have been at the point when he was killed and replaced by something else. Harry concluded, the only way to know for sure what was happening was to check on him personally. This was unfortunately impossible for the minister. He was too well protected, but if the same thing happened to both of them, Rookwood could have the same answers. There was a slim chance that this could be a simple case of an imposter using Polyjuice Potion, or some human transfiguration. However, the damaged souls told Harry that something much more sinister had befallen those people, especially when Voldemort was involved in this matter. It would be just like him to find a way to, not only kill, but also destroy the souls of those he hates. Harry, you have barely touched your plate. Lyra leaned closer to him. Are you feeling unwell? Harry looked down at his plate. It was true that he had barely touched it. He had too many things in his head at the moment. It's nothing, I'm just not feeling very hungry. His sister stared at him for a moment before shrugging and going back to her meal. After all, she didn't think it could be something serious. Harry had time to take a few bites of his food before the end of the feast. The headmaster ushered them all to their respective house common rooms, and the prefects made sure they all got there. Harry followed along and went to his room, but he had no plans of resting that night. Tempest. It was almost midnight and his housemates were fast asleep, like the rest of the castle. Time to go. Moving around the castle at night was no issue for Harry. After all, the castle elves, ghosts and paintings were on his side. The only one he had to avoid was that nasty man and his cat. This way, my lord. It is close to Miss Williams' cottage. A middle-aged man dressed in elegant clothing from the 1800s pointed to his left from within his painting. Harry didn't know where the dormitory of the new professor was located, so he had to ask for help. He thanked the man inside the painting and continued walking. After taking 2 more turns, he arrived in front of a painting depicting a beautiful landscape of a grassy meadow with a wooden cabin on one side. At the front stood a young woman in a yellow tunic. "My lord, did you come to visit me this late at night?" she asked in a flirtatious manner. "I'm afraid it's not that kind of visit, Miss Williams." "Is he here?" Harry asked. She made a face of disgust. "Yes. Why did they have to put him next to my painting? That man creeps me out." She pointed to her right. There was an old wooden door right next to the painting. This corridor only contained 2 rooms, and if he recalled correctly, the one at the end was used for storage. Did the headmaster give him this room on purpose? Harry considered it for a moment. This was not a usual area for professors' offices or bedrooms. This part of the castle was very isolated, and rarely visited. Well, it's good for me anyway, Harry thought.
Thank you, Miss Williams. I'll talk to the headmaster about moving you to a different location, perhaps closer to the main hall.
Oh, that would be lovely, she answered excitedly. Okay. Now, Harry activated his invisibility and walked toward the first door. He first checked for any extra security the new professor could have added. There was nothing. He's either very confident or very careless. All Hogwarts' private bedrooms were well protected with anti-unlocking charms and more, but none of those worked on him and no additional security has been added. With the full authority of a headmaster, there was no door in this castle that would not open to him. He grasped the copper handle and began to twist it very slowly. The door opened with a soft click, and he began to move inside. The charm on his shoes prevented any noise from being produced, and his cloak of invisibility protected him from all sorts of detections, but he still moved with a lot of caution. The inside of the room was very dark, but the moonlight coming from the window on the other side gave him just enough to know where to step next. Not much was in this room. Basic furniture and a small bed next to the only window, which was carelessly wide open. The dim light illuminated the surface of the bed. Wait, where is he? The bed appears to be completely empty. The sheets were still intact, making it obvious that no one had used this bed yet. Harry could feel a faint magical presence inside the room, so he looked around. His eyes widened, and he had to stop himself from making any noise by covering his mouth. Professor Rookwood was standing next to the wardrobe with his eyes open and not moving an inch. He was looking right at him. Did he see me? Harry took a few steps to one side, but Rookwood's eyes remained in the same position.
Is he?
He can't be sleeping like that. This situation was too strange. No matter. Let's just do what I came to do. I need answers. He decided to ignore the bizarre behavior and push forward. Harry pointed his wand at the strange man. Imperia. As the forbidden curse hit Rookwood's chest, Harry knew something had gone very wrong. Normally when you use this curse you feel an immediate connection with the other person as you try to get past their defenses. This time he only felt a powerful backlash that almost made him drop his wand and push him back. What is this? There was something blocking him from accessing his mind. It broke the connection so fast that he didn't even feel it fall. This is not occlumency. This is more like, Rookwood's brown eyes changed color until they became completely red and shone with enough intensity to stand out more than anything else inside this dimly lighted bedroom. Who dares? The still body of the new professor came to life in an instant. He pointed his wand directly in front of him. Avada Kedavra. The deadly flash of green light passed a foot away from where Harry was standing. I need to leave, he decided immediately. When he moved his foot slightly, the wooden tile beneath him let out a mild creaking noise. His charm only affected his shoes and not the floor beneath. There. This time Rookwood used a silent curse for more speed and accuracy. Harry almost tripped on the bed while trying to avoid what looked like an organ-dissolving curse. There was no room to fight here. He lifted his wand up and was about to apparate away, when he realized that it would be a mistake. Only the headmaster can apparate inside the castle. This would put the blame directly onto Dumbledore, and the Ministry is only looking for an excuse to expel him from the position. With no other choice, Harry got onto the bed, and before Rookwood could fire again, he jumped out of the window. Rookwood held his wand firmly and walked to the window. He then poked his head outside and glanced down. There was nothing to be seen or heard at all. The night was completely quiet once more. I can only feel faint traces of their magic. Not enough to find the source. A skilled one, huh? Interesting. The red light in Rookwood's eyes disappeared, and they returned to their previous lifeless state. The next day all the students received their schedules. Double defense against the dark arts first thing in the morning. Ron made a face of pure disgust. At least it's not double potions like last year, Seamus reminded him. I mean, anything except for that again. But have you seen the new professor? She looks and sounds insufferable, Ron said. Come on, maybe she's not that bad. Neville decided to say something he was going to regret very soon. Harry glanced at the schedule for the day. There was indeed a double class with Umbridge and no history of magic, until the next day. This gives me a good chance. He thought about going directly to inform Dumbledore of his findings with Rookwood, but he could already imagine how the old headmaster was going to react. It would be better to first have a good conversation with Umbridge. I just need to secure a private meeting with the Toad. That shouldn't be difficult, Harry thought as he finished his breakfast. Professor Umbridge was already standing at the end of the classroom when the students began to enter. She waited with an impassive gaze as they took their seats. 10 points from Gryffindor, Umbridge announced. Wait, what? Hermione exclaimed. What did we do already? Ron looked confused. You arrived late, Umbridge glared at them. Hermione raised her hand. Professor, there are still 2 minutes until the... Silence, Umbridge shouted at her. You have to be here 10 minutes before the start of class in order to prepare. I expect you to be on time next or it will be 20 points then. Some of the Slytherin students who shared their classroom began to chuckle. Hold on, Ron pointed at the other half of the class. They got here at the same time. Why aren't you taking points from Slytherin too? I do not need to excuse myself to students, but I will make an exception just this time, Mr. Umbridge looked directly at Ron with intensity. Ron got a bit nervous. But Weasley. She scowled. Of course, you look like your useless father after all. Ron was about to snap, but Neville stopped him. Shh, don't, he warned his friend. Umbridge saw this and grinned. For your information, Mr. Weasley, the reason I have not punished the Slytherin students is because the dungeons are much further away from this classroom than the other houses, so I can forgive a few extra minutes. Hermione was about to raise her hand to tell the professor that she was wrong about that statement, but Parvati was quick to grab her hand. No. It was easy to tell that this woman was very biased toward the House of the Snakes. They already had experience with this thanks to Professor Snape. Arguing with her would only serve to lose more points for their house. Now, if there are no more interruptions, we will begin the class. The students pulled out their defense books and placed their wands next to them, as they had always done during their previous DADA classes. Umbridge saw this and gestured for them to put the wands away. You can store the wands back in your bags. The book will be enough for this class. So we're not going to practice any magic. Daphne raised her hand and asked. Umbridge frowned. There will be no need for any practical use of the wand. The theory will be more than enough to pass your tests. Daphne's eyes widened at hearing this. The class stood in silence as the information began to sink in. It was not just for today. This woman was not planning on teaching them anything practical for the entire year. But what about the OWLs? There's a practical part to it. How can we pass if we don't practice? Hermione couldn't take this without saying something. That won't be a problem. Our beloved Minister Parkinson, along with the Board of Education, and of course me, have decided to create a new law that will change the way the OWL exams work. The practical part will be removed, leaving only the theoretical test, Umbridge explained. So you see, there's no need for the wands. In fact, once this law passes, we will also remove the practical part from every single class that still has them. Like charms, Umbridge smiled after seeing the horrified expressions on her students' faces. In fact, the laws that the minister had planned for the future went far beyond that. He intended to completely take away the wands of every student until they passed their final exams. And even then, only those that the Ministry of Magic declared as trustworthy would be given the right to use magic. In the future, they would be able to control who could even use magic at all. And of course, they would only give this right to those loyal to their cause. No more mudbloods and blood traitors with wands. Umbridge almost giggled at the mere thought of what the future held. Now, if there are no more pointless questions, perhaps we can begin this class. A student lifted his hand, and her mood immediately dropped a few notches at noting who this was. The student in question was none other than Harry Potter. I do have a pointless question, Harry said with an innocent face. Umbridge gritted her teeth. She had not forgotten about him. This was the one she hated the most, and the one she was the most wary of. She could not wait for the moment when she could take his wand away. And what is it? Be quick about it. She snapped at Harry. Is it true that you are half magical toad? Harry asked without skipping a beat. The class stared at him with shocked eyes. What did you say? How dare you? Umbridge looked about to explode. Did I get it wrong? Was it 1/4 toad, perhaps? Harry made a confused expression. Harry, what are you plotting now? Defay muttered softly. That's it, she shouted. 50 points from Gryffindor and 2 weeks of detention. Harry shrugged. You said we could ask questions. 4 weeks. Umbridge screamed. Harry, what are you doing? Hermione whispered to him. The rest of the class also wore expressions of bafflement. Umbridge pointed her finger at him. This afternoon, after classes, you are coming to my office. And you better not be late. Of course, Professor. I wouldn't dream of it, Harry replied with a kind smile. He knew this was going to be easy, at least. Now he just needed to wait. As requested, Harry finished his classes without causing any more trouble, and walked to the Inquisitor's office. Umbridge was waiting for him at the door with an upset expression. She was too angry with him to use her usual fake smile. I didn't expect you to actually appear. She was getting ready to go talk to his head of house and present a formal complaint. You may not know, but I am quite the exemplary student around here, Harry said as he pointed at the door behind her. Shall we? Umbridge had her wand ready in her left hand, just in case. Despite her hatred for Harry Potter, she was very wary of him. How could she not be after what she saw him do the previous year? She opened the door and urged him inside, not taking her eyes off him for a moment. Leave your wand on my desk. You won't need it for this detention. And then sit down in that chair. She pointed to a small table in front of her desk that had a single piece of parchment resting on top. Harry did as she said, placing his wand on her desk before taking a seat in front of the small table. This calmed her down a bit and gave her more confidence now that she was the only one armed. Students like Harry Potter were the main motivators for laws that restricted the use of wands to only trustworthy individuals. Umbridge closed the door and added a silencing charm. It was going to be needed for what she had planned. Mr. Potter, she walked to her desk and grabbed Harry's wand. Today you are going to learn to respect your superiors. I want you. Harry turned to look at her. His wand appeared from its holster and was pointed at Umbridge. The woman was completely caught off guard when her wand was sent flying with a silent, disarming charm. She quickly grabbed the wand she had taken from her desk and aimed it at him. Crucio. But nothing happened. Harry ignored her confusion and followed up with a restraining spell. Incarcerus. White chains wrapped tightly around her body, making her let out a painful grunt. How? The wand. My wand is right here. Harry showed it to her. What you're holding is just a wooden replica I conjured. You're way too naive, Professor. You didn't even check if it was real or if I had other foci on me. Harry turned to examine the room. Potter, you can't do this. Let me go, Umbridge screamed. Harry continued to ignore her complaints, and performed a few tests. He wanted to make sure there was nothing that could disrupt him. But other than the silencing charm Umbridge had used, the office was clean. "Release me this instant. This is a very serious crime, Potter. You're going to Azkaban for this." "That's a bit harsh, Professor. You're the one who used an unforgivable curse on me." I have the right to." "Don't worry. I won't judge you for that. The unforgivable curses can be useful sometimes. Although my favorite is a different one." Harry pointed his wand at her face. "What?" Umbridge recalled the coldness Harry had shown when he killed all those people at the Ministry. "Don't kill me, please." "Kill you already?" "No, it's too soon for that. Imperio." A flash of light came out of his wand and hit Umbridge directly. She seemed to enter a trance, her eyes becoming glazed over. "Umbridge, I'm going to ask you a few things, and you will tell me the truth. Is that clear?" Harry said. "Of course." She smiled at him like he was her best friend. Wow, she has like no mental protections at all. Harry wondered how someone like her could hold such high positions in the Ministry. Anyway, where do we start? Harry considered for a moment. "What is your real objective here at Hogwarts?" "I have several, but the most important ones are to keep an eye on Albus Dumbledore and to make sure that Neville Longbottom participates in the Triwizard Tournament." "Neville? Did Minister Parkinson order you that?" She shook her head. "No, this came from the Dark Lord himself. He said that my job is crucial and that I will be rewarded properly." Her eyes were filled with admiration. "The Dark Lord, you say?" Harry flicked his wand, removing the white chains. There was no more need for them, as the woman was completely under his control. "Show me your right forearm." Right away, she lifted the sleeve of her right arm, and Harry could clearly see the familiar black tattoo depicting the snake and skull. "You are a Death Eater. My lord granted me that honor very recently." That was not a question, but she seemed very eager and happy to talk about it. "Do you know where the Dark Lord is?" Harry decided to ask, even though there was little chance. "No, the Dark Lord has only visited the Ministry twice to share some of his plans with us. But he never told me where he was staying. I need to work harder to earn his trust." "Figures. How does he communicate with you?" "I've been told to listen to what Mr. Rookwood says. He will deliver any new orders to me." "Rookwood, what do you know about him?" "I knew him a bit before he was sent to Azkaban. He has been a very loyal follower of our Dark Lord. That's why he was released from prison, so he could continue to serve." "That's it? Do you know nothing about his death?" Umbridge looked genuinely confused at this question. "But he's not dead." I don't know." "Looks like you really don't know what he is. Did you not notice any change in his personality?" "Personality? He seems quieter than the Lord Rookwood, I remember. We never really spoke much." It wasn't much, but at least he had a clue of what Voldemort was planning for Hogwarts at the moment. He was trying to get rid of Neville and Dumbledore. His eyes went back to Umbridge. "Tell me more about your plan. How do you intend to force Neville Longbottom to participate in the tournament?" "I want to know all the details." Harry was thinking that he could make a few changes. A loud knock was heard all of a sudden. It surprised the two other occupants of the room, as they weren't expecting any more visitors. But the headmaster knew exactly who it was. "Come in," he said. "Mr. Potter?" Professor McGonagall looked at Harry with wide eyes. It was very unusual for a student to visit the headmaster directly. If a professor had any issue with a student, they would first have to go through the head of house, and she certainly hadn't received any messages concerning Harry Potter. "Potter?" Snape narrowed his eyes. The mere sight of this boy already soured his mood, and this year had been bad enough on the first day. "Oops, should I come later?" Harry asked the headmaster. Dumbledore stared at him for a moment. He knew that Harry wouldn't appear unannounced unless he had a good reason. "No, we were already done with this meeting. Just wait a bit." "Albus, we were not done. That woman is talking about re-implementing a lot of medieval rules in our school, like physical punishments. We have to do something," McGonagall exclaimed. "I'll see what I can do, Minerva. But for the moment just try to keep your head down and don't give her any excuses to make trouble for you." Dumbledore knew this wouldn't satisfy the other professor, but for now it would have to do. McGonagall was still not completely aware of how tied his hands were already. There was nothing he could do, at least not legally. "Fine, let's leave it here for now. McGonagall stood up and prepared to leave. Harry was waiting near the door and noticed the inquisitive look on his head of house's face as she passed by. Then, I presume my presence is no longer needed either. Snape stood up from his chair. Harry closed the door. No, I want you to stay. We may need your assistance in this. Excuse me. Snape stared at Harry in disbelief. Are you giving me orders, you arrogant boy? Severus, calm down. I'm sure Harry was merely making a polite request. Dumbledore tried to placate the professor. Harry took the seat that had been left vacant by Professor McGonagall. You might want to sit down for this. Snape frowned. He had been trying very hard not to snap at Harry, just because he didn't want to ruin his relationship with Lily now that they were talking again. The best way he found to accomplish this was to completely ignore Harry, or at least as much as he could, given that he was a professor. But the boy wasn't making it easy. Voldemort is inside Hogwarts, Harry stated. Dumbledore almost fell to the ground and had to grab his desk for support. I told you to sit down, Harry added.
Are you crazy? Don't say that name. Is this your idea of a prank?
Snape finally lost his calm. And Umbridge is a Death Eater. Harry added. What? Snape shouted. Maybe I should have opened with that. Harry pondered. Harry, how can this be? Please, explain it a bit better. Dumbledore managed to sit back down. Headmaster, you can't be taking him seriously, right? The boy is obviously making things up. His father was known for his ridiculous pranks. Snape tried to make him see reason. Severus, I understand your point of view, but I assure you that Harry's information is always reliable, more than you can imagine. Dumbledore gave him a knowing look. Snape's eyes widened as he realized something. Don't tell me it's him. He pointed at Harry. This is the mysterious source that you always refuse to reveal during the Order meetings. Mysterious source? Harry tilted his head. Yes, Severus. There is more to Harry Potter than I could explain at the moment. I never revealed this to you because I knew how you would react. I would appreciate it if you kept this information to yourself, Dumbledore told him. Snape was staring at Harry now. He could never have imagined that the mysterious informant who had been helping the Order of the Phoenix was none other than James Potter's son. You? Snape muttered. I knew there was something strange about you. Who are you really? Snape demanded to know. Now is really not the time for that, Harry said. He is correct, Severus. Harry, tell me, when did you see him? Tell us all the details. Dumbledore leaned forward on his desk. Here's the thing. He's not here in person. I believe he is controlling some sort of magical construct, Harry clarified. A construct? You mean like a golem? Dumbledore asked. Something like that. Remember when I told you that Rookwood was dead? Well, I was right. He is definitely dead, Harry said. Dead? What is he talking about? Snape had never heard about this. Dumbledore, however, had an idea of what Harry was implying. You don't mean that? Yes. If you remove the soul from a person, you are left with something that is neither completely alive nor dead, a vessel to be filled by something else, Harry explained. Right, that could be possible. Dumbledore began to consider this possibility. You believe he put a fragment of himself in that vessel? That would create something akin to a living Horcrux. No, Harry immediately dismissed that possibility. He didn't think Voldemort would have recalled all of his soul pieces just to fragment his soul again and put them in living vessels. That would make him even more vulnerable than before. I think he found a way to create a connection with the construct. I just don't know if he is directly controlling it or merely giving it orders like I would with one of my golems, Harry said. Regardless of that, we cannot have something so dangerous inside the school, Dumbledore said. Snape was feeling a bit lost, but from what he understood he had to agree with the headmaster. Anything connected with the Dark Lord should be immediately removed from the school premises. Let's not be so hasty. I don't think that puppet is an immediate danger to the students, Harry said. How can you be so sure? That's why I had to speak with Umbridge before coming here. I couldn't get any information from the construct, but I did get some interesting things from the Toad. Let me tell you about it. Toad? Oh, I think I see it now, Dumbledore seemed to realize. You spoke with that woman. Snape looked a bit dubious. I have to assume that she didn't willingly share any important information with you. That woman hates you, Dumbledore stated. The feeling is mutual. Yes, Harry nodded. And I suppose it would be better not to ask about the specifics of how you obtained that information. Yes, that would be for the best. I agree, Harry answered. Why? Snape asked. You don't want to get involved in this one. Trust me, Harry told him. Is she still alive at least? Dumbledore inquired. Alive, well, and won't remember a thing, Harry said. That's good enough, I suppose. Dumbledore decided. Good enough? Snape could not believe what he was hearing. Now, what did you find out? The headmaster leaned forward on the desk. She revealed to me the details about her mission here at Hogwarts. Other than serving as a spy for the Death Eaters, her most important role is to make sure Neville's name comes out of the Goblet of Fire. How do you even know about the goblet? Snape pointed his finger at Harry. They hadn't revealed the goblet yet, or explained how the selection process was going to be. That can't be. Is this the same? Dumbledore looked somewhat shocked. He had considered many possible outcomes for this year, given the information he received from Harry about his own timeline. This could have been one of the possibilities, but it no longer made sense in the current circumstances.
Why would he be after Neville?
The prophecy is no longer valid, and he had no doubt that Voldemort was well aware of this fact. I also thought it was strange, but if you think about it from his point of view, you will see that this is more than just about the prophecy, Harry said. It's about pride. Snape understood it well. He had known the Dark Lord for many years and he had never seen someone with a bigger ego than him. Even my little sister knows the story about how the boy who lived defeated him when he was a mere baby and sent him fleeing to another country, where he had remained licking the wounds of his humiliating loss until now. Harry said, he wants revenge, Dumbledore muttered. But he's just a boy. I think he wants to put on a spectacle and kill Neville in a very public way, to show the world that he will not be defeated by some miracle again. He wants people to lose any remaining hope. Harry was very familiar with that scenario. Still, he doesn't need to put him in the tournament for that. Dumbledore still had doubts about this plan of his. Harry shrugged. Who knows what goes on in that psycho's mind? Maybe he wants to present Neville as a competent wizard before crushing him. It could be about the rumors, Snape muttered. What rumors? Dumbledore asked. Since the first year, there have been a lot of rumors circulating about Longbottom's hidden potential, and about his secret feats of magic, Snape answered. I'm sure Lavender started at least half of those, Harry commented. Of course he was familiar with the rumors that have been going around the school for 4 years already. It would be impossible not to be. You think he put Neville in the tournament to see if those rumors had any weight? Dumbledore said. I only know that the Dark Lord is a very cautious man, and after all these years in hiding, I can only imagine how much worse it got, Snape added. Very well, regardless of his motivations, we now know what he is planning, and can do something about it. The question is how to stop it. Dumbledore looked at them for ideas. That should not be too difficult. You were already planning on adding several protections to the Goblet of Fire. We can think of a few ways that would make it impossible for Longbottom's name to come out of there. Snape seemed to be in deep contemplation. Stop it. Are you too mad? Why would we do that? Harry exclaimed. Harry, Dumbledore glanced at him. Think about it. Even if we ruin his plans, do you assume he will just give up? No, he will come up with a different way to get what he wants, and maybe next time we won't find out what it is until it's too late. Now we have an opportunity, Harry explained. An opportunity, but, Dumbledore repeated. Are you trying to get Longbottom killed? You have no idea how dangerous this tournament is. Snape felt a bit conflicted. A part of him would certainly enjoy seeing that annoying brat getting a bit roasted by a dragon. We are not going to put Neville in the tournament. I will be the one participating in the tests. We just have to make everyone believe it's actually him. You. Snape got up from his seat. That would not be as simple. If Neville's name comes out of the goblet, he will be bound by a magical contract. He won't be able to take his place in the tests, Dumbledore pointed out. I am well aware of how the Goblet of Fire works, but I have an idea for this. An idea that would require the cooperation of both of you and Neville himself. Dumbledore glanced at Snape. That's why you asked him to stay. You had something planned from the beginning. Let's hear it then. No, a bit more to the right. Umbridge woke up the next day in a very bad mood, and she couldn't even tell why. The events from the previous day was somewhat fuzzy. Did I eat too many rum chocolates last night? This was not the first time it happened, but it was certainly not a common occurrence. She was so angry that she decided to begin applying her first new rules today, instead of letting the students have a bit more time. I said to the right. She just realized that the janitor was moving the plaque the wrong way. Ugh. The man grumbled from his ladder and moved the other way. There. Hang it there, Umbridge instructed, and Filch began to use a hammer and a large nail to secure the plaque on the wall. This one read, Educational Decree Number 23. Dolores Jane Umbridge has been appointed to the post of High Inquisitor of Hogwarts. Next to this sign were 22 others with different texts written on them. Some were rules, while others were mere announcements. It was still early in the morning and the students began to walk by the wall. What is that? Where did all of those plaques come from? This was the main hallway that led to the Great Hall, so everyone who was going to get some breakfast stopped to read the plaques. Umbridge stood there and watched with amusement at the students' reactions. Curfew has been changed to 7 p.m. That's just after dinner. We can't wear skirts shorter than the school robes. Who even has something like that? No holding hands or any other show of affection inside the school premises. Oh, she's begun already. Harry took note of the large number of plaques as he made his way to the hall. What's all of that? Lyra was at his side and began to read them. Her reaction was much like the others. She was outraged. Come here, he took her by the hand and dragged her a bit further away from the crowd. Harry, what are you doing? Lyra asked, but did not try to resist. I need you to listen to something. If Lyra was going to complain, the thought disappeared when she saw how serious he looked. I know those rules are ridiculous, but you have to obey them for now. What? You can't be. You have to trust me on this. Okay. She could not say no to her brother when he was like this. Do whatever you can to avoid getting in trouble. That woman will take any chance to give you detention. Don't give her the opportunity. The new professor. Why would she do that? Harry, what is going on? You're scaring me, Lyra said. It's best not to know some things. Just keep in mind that Umbridge is more dangerous than you think. Make sure to tell this to your friends. If she gives detention to any of you, let me know immediately and never stay in a room alone with her. Do you understand? Lyra nodded. I get it, even though I don't understand why. Harry was well aware of how selfish this was of him. Umbridge was going to do her best to discipline as many students as she could, and he was not going to stop her because he wanted to keep things as unchanged as possible. This was his best advantage at the moment, and he did not want to lose it. But if that toad were to lay a finger on those he cared about, he did not trust himself to stop before ripping her into pieces. That would ruin things quite a bit and put everyone in even more danger in the long run. He looked back at the toad as she smiled in satisfaction at her creation before he moved his eyes to the wall. There are still quite a few rules left. I can't believe I have to deal with this and the tournament at the same time. The rest of the week went in relative peace. This was a much forced peace, given all the rules that had been newly implemented by Umbridge. The first Hogsmeade weekend was still another week away, but at least it was finally time for the arrival of the two other schools that would participate in the tournament. The Great Hall had been expanded with an extra table to accommodate all the upcoming guests. At the front of the hall was a very large object that had been covered with a tarp. Tonight is a very special one. Tonight we will be receiving students from 2 foreign schools, who will remain on Hogwarts premises for the remainder of the year, the headmaster announced. Now I will expect all of you to be on your best behavior and make these students feel very much welcome. He made a hand gesture, and the giant double doors on the other side of the hall opened by themselves. Let's first give our welcome to Durmstrang. A large number of students dressed in black and red robes made their way in between the tables. They all look upset, Hermione observed. I heard that Durmstrang is in the middle of some frozen tundra. I would be upset too if I had to study in a place like that, Parvati added. Look, that one in the front is really hot, Lavender was quick to point out. That's Victor Crumb, Ron shouted. Look, George. Yes, Fred, one twin said to the other. Looks like our brother has finally found love. It does look that way. The twins began to laugh. Hey, stop it, Ron pointed his fork at them. The group from Durmstrang was around 30 people strong, and most of them were males. Their headmaster stood at the front. He was a tall man with long hair and a beard, who looked around with paranoia. Dumbledore greeted them briefly before signaling to the door again. And now, bolt on. This group received a lot more cheers than the previous one. If the Durmstrang students felt very angry and intimidating, these ones were the complete opposite. With their tall headmistress at the head, the group from Beauxbaton made their way to the front of the hall. They were around the same size, some 30-odd students, and most of them were females. Whoa! Seamus was practically drooling. I know, Neville agreed. I heard some rumors about Velas going to that school, George commented. Well, the tall blonde one next to the headmistress does have the look, Fred added. Dumbledore went to greet the headmistress from Beauxbaton, before introducing them to the audience. Olympa Maxime was even taller than Hagrid and certainly had some giant blood in her. The paranoid headmaster from Durmstrang was a man called Igor Karkaroff, a former Death Eater who betrayed his allies to avoid prison. Harry was surprised the man even dared to show his face in England at all at this time given the circumstances. Judging by his demeanor, he no doubt knew about Voldemort's return to the country. He must have a lot of trust in the security offered by Hogwarts walls. Too bad he doesn't know they're already inside, Harry thought. While Maxime and Karkaroff took their seats at the professor's table, most of their students sat down at the newly added table. But a few of them were daring enough to approach some of the 4 house tables. Harry spotted the face of an old acquaintance getting close. Fleur Delacour looked so much younger and more innocent compared to the one from his memories. She stood behind Fred and George, along with 2 of her friends at her side. Excuse-moi, may we sit here? She pointed at the empty seats next to Fred. Now, let me say something. I know Fleur is supposed to have this heavy French accent, but I don't know how to convey that in text, other than adding a few French words here and there, so I'm not going to try imagine she is talking with a French accent. Fred became frozen like a statue until his twin gave him a smack on the head. Yes?
Wonderful.
Fleur offered him a sweet smile and sat down at his side while her 2 friends occupied the other places. Your English is really good. Ginny decided to say something after seeing the panicked faces of the twins. They were usually a lot more vocal around girls. Mercy, I have practiced all summer, Fleur said. Are you going to join the tournament? Lyra asked. Oui, I will. This is the reason for my visit, Fleur said with determination in her eyes. She is going to be our champion, one of her friends said. She is going to win the tournament, the other one added. Please, behave. Fleur threw them a glare of disapproval. Really? You already know who your champion is? We still don't know ours. Ginny felt like their school was already behind and they haven't even started yet. We don't even know how the champions are chosen, Lyra added. With the thing beneath the tarp, Harry told his sister. Just then the plates with food began to appear. Finally, Ron groaned. The tarp. Both Ginny and Lyra glanced at the mysterious object. They had all been wondering what it was since they arrived at the hall. Do you know what it is? Ginny asked. Harry gave Fleur a quick glance. There was a smug smile hiding beneath her mask of calmness. You can ask our French guests. They know. Harry began to eat his dinner. You do? Can you tell us? Ginny turned to them. Fleur made a troubled expression. Oh, well, we promised to keep it to ourselves until your headmaster. We can't tell you. Yes, our headmistress will get angry with us. The 2 French girls said. Oh. Ginny looked down in disappointment. By the way, Fleur wanted to change the subject to something else. Her eyes wandered around the table. I heard many stories about the boy who lived, and that he was in this house. Is it true? She finally looked at Neville. Neville became very nervous. He was not used to talking to girls, much less one this beautiful. Fleur smiled. She was used to this reaction. Me and my sister are great fans of your stories. The stories, yes. Neville felt very awkward. He hated being reminded of those children's stories. People always made assumptions about him because of them. And then he had to hear how disappointed they were because he was nothing like the character in those books. He doesn't like those stories, you know. Hermione decided to jump in the conversation. Oh? And you are? Fleur glanced in her direction. Hermione Granger. She did not like the way the three French girls were glancing at her. And why would he not like those stories? Yes, he is a great hero in them, the two French girls commented. I'm not like that. Neville looked down. Fleur was measuring him with her eyes. Really? I figured you would become one of the champions. Who else is more qualified than the boy who lived to represent Hogwarts? Those stories are all made up. They never even consulted with Neville before writing them. Ginny said with a frown, despite the fact that she had been one of the many who believed in them. Yeah, but Neville is a great guy though. Seamus jumped to support his friend. Yeah, and very rich, Ron added. Ron, Neville exclaimed. I see, so none of the rumors were true then. Fleur's smile seemed to disappear from her face and was replaced by one of disappointment. I thought I could measure the competition a bit. Seems like I wasted my time. She stood up from the table. Let's go, girls. She told her two friends who hurried to follow her. 6 days later. It was 30 minutes past midnight. The halls of the castle were dimly lit with the help of a few magical torches. Everyone was fast asleep by now. Or at least almost everyone. A certain woman was in a hurry to arrive at a late meeting. The silence was constantly being cut by the incessant noises produced by her new shoes, hitting the stone floor. Most would find the sound very irritating, but she quite liked it, and so she never bothered with any sound-dampening charms. All of a sudden she heard a loud hiss next to her as she was about to take another turn. Madame Umbridge jumped 1 foot in the air and almost lost her balance from the unexpected noise. When she looked down, she found herself staring at an ugly cat with disgustingly dirty hair and a pair of piercing orange eyes. What is this thing doing here? Her high-pitched voice resounded all over the place. She then heard hurried steps approaching while the cat stared at her with a pair of disturbingly orange eyes. Oh, Miss Umbridge, it's you! The janitor appeared in a rush from around the corner. He was gasping heavily for air after finally catching up to his cat. Mr. Filch, of course. Umbridge scowled. She should have remembered that this ugly creature belonged to this ugly man. But perhaps her mind was trying to protect her from such memories after all. Your pet startled me. She gave the man a look of displeasure and waited for his apology. I'm very sorry, Madam Umbridge, which he immediately offered. I thought Miss Norris had found some students sneaking around at night for, they do that very often, and I don't want the details, that is strictly forbidden, she screeched. Of course, yes. I will allow such acts in my halls, Filch said with passion. These are not your halls, you dimwit. That's what she wanted to say. Well, going back to the topic, I am obviously not a student. She really disliked this man and had planned to get rid of him as soon as possible, but he just so happened to be useful, for now at least, so you can go back to patrol your halls, and do it properly this time. Yes. He picked up his cat from the floor. Still, it's a bit late to be wandering the halls though. He glanced at her for a possible explanation. Umbridge's frown deepened. Now she was being questioned by this lowly individual. A woman of my status and caliber has many obligations. Rest can be a luxury sometimes. Now, if you don't mind, I have some business to attend to. Yes. He fumbled with the words. She did not even let him finish his mumbling before turning around and walking away, leaving the nervous janitor behind. She was already anxious, and now she was also furious, thanks to that buffoon. I'll get him back for that. Perhaps I'll make that cat of his disappear. Umbridge did her best to calm herself before reaching that person's room. Talking alone with Mr. Rookwood always made her feel uneasy, to say the least. In public, Rookwood is a quiet man with a personality as interesting as a rock, but during the few private conversations they had, he seemed to become a completely different person. His eyes turned more lively and his demeanor suddenly switched. Umbridge was of course very curious about this, but she did not dare to ask. She had been told very clearly that at least for the duration of the mission, Mr. Rookwood was going to be acting as her superior. She would receive any new instructions directly from him, and any reports would also have to be delivered to Rookwood in person. Tonight she had a very important report. Okay, here we go. Umbridge stood before the door until she got up the courage to knock. Enter. Just by the tone alone, Umbridge could tell that Rookwood was in his alternate persona. She opened the door and went inside. The bedroom had even less light than the corridor, with only a couple of candles doing all the heavy work to light the place. Rookwood was sitting in front of a small circular table that had been set up at the center of the small room. An empty chair was on the other side, and Rookwood made a gesture for her to sit. "Well, how did it go?" he asked with a tone that gave her goosebumps. Her intuition told her that if she were to give this man some bad news, something terrible would happen to her. Luckily that was not the case. Umbridge tried her best to form a smile and pretend to be calm while she sat down. "It was a complete success, Mr. Rookwood. I followed all your instructions to the letter. Give me the details," he demanded. "Yes. I took a piece of parchment with Longbottom's name on it, one that had been written by him as you instructed." He nodded. "Continue." "I used the Confunder's charm on the goblet to make it believe there was a fourth school after bypassing the protections set by the headmaster." "Did you encounter any problems?" he asked. "Not at all," she lied. Umbridge had never been skilled in practical magic, and it took her many tries to get the spell right. "You will definitely see the boy's name coming out of the goblet of fire tomorrow night." Rookwood's eyes seemed to shine with a red light for a moment. "Excellent. If it all goes according to plan, you will be generously rewarded by our Lord. But do not forget that failure will not be tolerated." His gaze pierced her. Umbridge's face went a shade paler. "Why, yes. Of course." The next day, at night, the entire school was in the Great Hall, finishing their dinners and looking towards the front where the goblet of fire had been placed, with great expectations. Tonight the headmaster was finally going to announce the 3 participants for the tournament. Over this last week they had the opportunity to meet the students from the other schools, and it was easy to tell who their champions were going to be. From Beauxbatons, Fleur Delacour was the favorite candidate, and the only one. Everyone else appeared to have come here just to support her as champion. From Durmstrang, there were a few candidates who put their names in the cup, but everyone was expecting Victor Crumb to be the one chosen. He was, after all, a very famous and popular professional Quidditch player. From Hogwarts, it was less clear. Dozens of seniors had put their names in. However, there was one student in the hall who already knew what the results were going to be. Harry stared at the goblet of fire with impassivity for a while before looking at Neville, who was peacefully finishing his dinner while talking with Ron and Seamus. He felt a bit bad for what was about to happen, but this was the best way. He had no doubt about that. If he hadn't taken charge of the situation, the danger could have come from anywhere at any time. It was preferable to have a sword pointed at you in the open than 100 daggers in the dark. "Ugh, I can't believe it," Hermione groaned. Harry glanced at her. Meanwhile his housemate was worried about something completely unrelated. "Cheer up, Herms. That happens to me all the time," Lavender said. "Yeah. Honestly, no one will blame you. That professor is even worse than the ghost." Parvati made a face of disgust. "I never fell asleep in class before," Hermione exclaimed. Apparently the history lessons of Professor Rookwood were even more boring than his predecessor. Boring enough to make someone like Hermione Granger fall asleep during his class. Harry didn't understand all the ins and outs of whatever necromancy Voldemort had used to create that soulless puppet. But it appears that as long as the Dark Lord was not directly controlling him, Rookwood would act in sort of automatic mode, and that made him extremely dull. "Look, it's time." Lyra pulled on his robes over and over. His sister was extremely excited about this tournament. "Who do you think Hogwarts champion is going to be?" she asked him. "Probably Cedric Diggory," Harry told her. "The Hufflepuff?" Lyra could not imagine a Hufflepuff champion. "Cedric?" Ginny poked her head from behind Lyra. He is very popular, yes." Of course she was very familiar with him. Not only was Cedric her rival at Quidditch, but he was also her neighbor. "But I still think that Ethan Colton has a better chance to become the champion." "Who?" Harry asked. "The head boy." "Wait, how are you sure that—" Lyra then realized something. The reason her brother was so sure must be because the same thing happened in his time. With a mischievous smile on her face, Lyra turned around. "Say, Ginny, do you want to make a bet?" "A bet on who becomes the champion?" "Sure, why not? But what do you want bet?" I don't have a single nut. Ginny was completely oblivious to her friend's machinations. Lyra grinned widely. Don't worry about it. I don't want money. What about this? The loser has to gear. Ouch. Lyra felt a hand smacking her head. No bets, Harry told her in a firm tone. But, Lyra pouted. No bets, he insisted. Ginny tilted her head in confusion. She had no idea what Lyra had in mind. She would have to ask her later. With the dinner finished, it was finally time to make the announcement everyone had been excited about. Dumbledore approached the goblet of fire and tapped it with his wand. The blue flames on the top became much more intense. And now, we will know the names of the 3 Triwizard champions. I will have to ask everyone to remain in silence. He pointed at the artifact. The goblet of fire will select a name, and this one will come out from within its flames. Once that person has been chosen, there is no going back, so I hope that everyone who put their names inside thought things through. The entirety of the audience remained silent as requested. Their eyes were glued to the goblet, waiting. Not even a minute had passed when the flames flared up, and a piece of scorched paper flew out. Dumbledore, who was waiting close by, was the one who caught the paper. Victor Krum. The students cheered for the Durmstrang champion. Victor stood up from his chair and acknowledged the cheers with a polite gesture. Another minute passed, and another paper flew out of the goblet. Fleur de la Cour, the headmaster declared. This surprised no one, but still Fleur stood up, smiled at the crowd, and gave a curtsy. Merci. It was finally time for the last champion. Another minute, and the paper came out in the same way as the others. Dumbledore extended his hand and the paper landed on his palm. He looked at it for a moment and read its contents. Cedric Diggory. Everyone cheered, but no one as loudly as the Hufflepuff table. Hey, you were right, Lyra, Ginny exclaimed. Yeah. She pouted, crossed her arms and gave her brother a glare. Hufflepuff. Cedric. The entire table began to cheer. The Hufflepuff house really needed this now. The atmosphere had been very depressing for the past weeks, and this bit of happiness was very welcome. Hogwarts. Cedric. Soon enough, the Gryffindor and Ravenclaw tables also joined in. After all, this was their champion, and he was going to win, or so they thought. The goblet of fire became active again. Its blue flames gained a green hue and began to rise in intensity. What is going on? Are there more champions? I think there is something wrong with the goblet. Umbridge opened her eyes widely. She expected the 4th name to come out like the others, but something was off. She was extremely worried now. If something went wrong, she was going to take the blame in front of her lord. Stay calm, remain in your seats, the headmaster shouted. Just when the flames appeared to be losing control, something came out of them with a loud explosion. A piece of paper. As the paper descended, the flames on the goblet calmed down until they returned to normal. McGonagall and a few other professors stood up from their seats and approached Dumbledore for an explanation. They all saw the headmaster catch the 4th piece of paper and look at it before closing his fist around it. Neville Longbottom, he announced. The hall became completely silent. What did he say? Neville stammered the words. I'm sure he said your name, Seamus told him. Ron frowned. You put your name in. Neville Longbottom, Dumbledore repeated. Neville, I think you are supposed to go there with the others, Ginny said. But I didn't put my name, I swear, Neville said defensively. Why didn't you tell me? I would have put my name in too. Ron glared at Neville with disgust. Neville Longbottom, come here please. Dumbledore made a hand gesture for him to approach. The other champions were already behind the headmaster, and staring at Neville. Not being given any other choice, Neville lowered his head and began to walk towards the front while everyone stared at him. He heard some of his housemates whispering and calling him a cheater and worse. He hadn't felt like this since his first year. Most seemed to have lost interest in the whole boy who lived thing after a while, especially after Draco disappeared. Other than hearing ridiculous rumors about him, no one had really bothered him. But now this happens. Why? Neville wondered while he walked. Mr. Longbottom, I expected better from you. Neville was first welcomed by a very disappointed Professor McGonagall. The headmaster got in between them and put his hand on Neville's shoulder. Let us discuss this in a more private setting, Severus, do me a favor and guide the champions to side chamber. We have to talk. This way, the potions professor told the other champions. They all followed him, along with the two foreign headmasters. They went inside a large studio filled with cabinets and shelves. As the door closed, the headmistress from Beauxbatons went directly to confront Dumbledore and Neville. What is the meaning of this? Hogwarts has 2 champions now. I demand that you remove one this instant. I don't care which one. Miss Maxime, I assure you that... I agree. I was not expecting this type of machination from you, Albus. Karkaroff joined in. Neville kept his head down, not wanting to make these people even angrier. Igor, you know me. Hogwarts has nothing to gain from doing something like this. Dumbledore tried to calm the two. Madame Maxime's eyes moved to Neville. If this is not something you planned, then this boy cheated all by himself. Is that what you are saying? I did not put my name in the goblet, Neville muttered. Like we are going to believe that. I just don't know how you got past the protections. Karkaroff grunted. How did you do it, boy? He got a bit closer and Neville was more scared now. Snape stopped the other headmaster. Igor, you are in no position to go accusing people of transgressions. Or have you forgotten your past? Severus, how dare you say that to me? Who do you think you are? Karkaroff frowned. Okay, that's enough. Dumbledore got serious. The intensity of his magic flaring was sufficient for them to take a step back. What is done, you know as well as I do. That once the name comes out, the magical contract is formed. And there is no going back. Neville Longbottom will participate in the tournament. Before they could open their mouths again, Dumbledore added something else. However, Hogwarts will only have one champion, and that is Cedric Diggory, since he was chosen first. In the case of Mr. Longbottom winning the tournament, it would be treated as an independent side, and Hogwarts would take no credit for it. Is that acceptable? He glanced at Neville and Cedric. Cedric shrugged. Sure, as long as everyone knows I'm the real champion. Neville nodded. I don't mind. He knew he wasn't going to win anyway. He just wanted people to stop being mad at him. Heh, like that little boy is going to win. Fleur stepped forward and stood next to her. Headmistress. It's fine, Headmistress. Let Hogwarts do what they want. I will be the winner in the end. Maxime smiled. So much fire. That's my girl. Very well, Albus. I'll complain no more about this matter. But I want you to know that I am very disappointed in you. Victor Krum moved next. It is all right, Headmaster. I always welcome the competition. He glared at Fleur. And the final champion will be me. Karkaroff chuckled. Right. He looked at Dumbledore. Fine. Let Hogwarts have 2 champions. There will be more to crush. Dumbledore shook his head. They weren't even listening to him, after all. Very well, then I will just say, congratulations to all the champions. You can go back to the Great Hall and celebrate with all your friends. I have convinced Madame Umbridge to allow a 10 p.m. curfew, just for tonight. The foreign champions began to leave the room, while McGonagall accompanied Cedric. Neville was about to follow them when he was stopped by Dumbledore. Not you, Mr. Longbottom. I'm afraid we still have more to discuss. We can continue in my office. Am I in trouble? Neville asked with a trembling voice. My grandma will kill me if I get expelled. Snape could not help but scowl. The Dark Lord is wary of this boy. The potion master reminded himself of that fact. No, you are not in trouble, Neville. I just want to talk about a few things related to what happened tonight. I promise to be as brief as possible, so you can return to your friends. Dumbledore said. Neville flinched. That's okay. I'm in no hurry to get back there. They probably hate me now. They think I'm a cheater. Dumbledore sighed. He detested that they had to do this. He looked at Snape, and even the potions professor looked a bit troubled. Go call for him. The gargoyle mechanism activated as soon as Harry and Snape got close to the entrance. How strange, it did not ask for the password. Snape stopped in his tracks and stared at the moving stairs. It must be broken, Harry told him. Snape's eyebrows twitched a few times. Potter, I know you are hiding something. I won't ask about it, but don't take me for a fool. Harry glanced at him with a serene expression. I am hiding many things. You may learn some of them soon, while others you will never get to know. And I will only take you for a fool when you do something foolish. Potter, Snape stood in front of him with clenched teeth. You will show me the proper respect. Harry returned his aggressive glare with a face that didn't give anything away. Is that an attempt to intimidate me? Because you have no idea how funny that is to me. Before Snape could begin yelling, Harry spoke again. But I believe the headmaster is waiting for us to arrive at his office. Unless you want to keep him waiting. Snape muttered a few curses under his breath, before going up the stairs. When they walked inside, they found Neville discussing something with the headmaster. A magical contract, the boy asked. That is correct. Every tournament champion is tied to the Goblet of Fire by a magical contract until the tournament is concluded. Breaking such a contract would have terrible consequences. But, his clear blue eyes moved to the new arrival. I don't think you need to be concerned about that. How can I not? It was then that Neville realized there were two more people in the office now. Harry, what are you? Professor Snape. His face went a few shades paler. The headmaster had told him they were waiting for someone. But, I thought you called for my grandma. I believe that conversation can wait until tomorrow. Dumbledore was already dreading talking to that stubborn woman again. But, Neville still didn't understand what his classmate and potions professor could be doing here. Allow me to explain this, Neville. This is going to take a bit of time, so I would ask you to bear with me and be patient. Dumbledore told him all about Voldemort's return and his plans to involve him in the tournament. You know who is back? Neville's body shook with terror while sitting in his chair. I'm afraid so. This has been confirmed to me by various sources, and all of them are very reliable. But what does he want with me? Hasn't he already done enough to my family? Neville still didn't know about the prophecy that was the main trigger that caused the death of his parents all those years back. Dumbledore didn't feel it was necessary to tell him due to the fact that the prophecy was no longer in effect. So there was no need to put that extra burden on Neville. And knowing him, there was a good possibility that he would end up blaming himself for what happened that night if he were to learn the full truth. The motivations behind Voldemort's actions are not important at this precise moment. But now that he has decided to go after you, well, he is not the type to change his mind. Let's just say that. Dumbledore sighed. So, he is the reason my name came out of the Goblet of Fire then. Can't you at least tell that to everyone so they don't think of me as a cheater? Neville requested without much thought. You want me to announce the return of the Dark Lord to every professor and student in Hogwarts? Dumbledore raised an eyebrow. Well, now that the headmaster was saying it like that, it did not seem like such a great idea anymore. People's complaints about your presence in the tournament are going to disappear after the first test. Trust me, Harry told him. Really? But even if that is true, Neville lowered his head in defeat. I don't want to be in the tournament. About that, Dumbledore started. I believe it's time to tell you the next part. You won't really be participating in the tournament. What? But you said before. Voldemort expects to see Neville Longbottom taking part in the tests. The headmaster moved his eyes to Harry. But thanks to the wonders of magic, there are many ways to accomplish that without putting you in any real danger. Harry took something out of his pocket. It was the same tiny box that Daphne had given to him on the first day of school. He placed it on the desk and gave it a gentle tap with his wand. The box grew in size until it resembled a briefcase. We will be using this, Harry said as he opened the case. Inside it were around 20 vials, all with identical contents and carefully stored to avoid any breakage. Potions? Wait, Neville gave the case a sniff. He may have been terrible at making potions, but he was great at recognizing the ingredients of a potion just by smell alone. However, there was someone else with much more expertise already in the room, who had already recognized the identity of the potions inside these vials. That's Polyjuice Potion. Snape had only been given part of the plan, but now that he saw this, he finally understood how Harry was going to participate in the tournament. Correct, this is a large supply of Polyjuice Potions. More than enough for the task, but we are going to need everyone's cooperation for this to work. Harry glanced at Neville. Will you help us? Over the next few weeks, Neville learned what it felt like to be disliked by an entire school, plus 2 foreign ones. Ron was quick to turn against his friend, and Seamus felt like he had no choice but to follow along with the rest of his house. The fact that he knew the truth about his participation in the tournament and that he was helping in the fight against the Dark Lord did make him feel a bit better though. Also, he didn't have to worry about the tournament itself since Harry had already explained in detail how they were going to handle it. He wasn't left by himself either. Harry, along with his sister Lyra and Ginny, would often keep him company. Luna Lovegood and Astoria Greengrass would often join them, so he never felt truly alone. But Neville was hardly the only one suffering at Hogwarts this year. Professor Umbridge had quickly become the most disliked person in the entire history of the school. She had continued to add more decrees to that wall, and it had gotten to the point where there was barely any room left. Umbridge even tried to limit the Hogsmeade permits to only the good students. Of course, this was done according to her own criteria. The headmaster had to intervene in order to stop that decree personally, as it would have created an endless amount of trouble. But just the fact that she tried to do that had earned the scorn of most students. There were so many rules that it was impossible not to break one by accident, and students would often find themselves in detention. This was the reason he had been forced to interject today in Hogwarts affairs. "Well, how did it go?" Lyra asked with expectant eyes. Harry walked out of Umbridge's office and closed the door. Today the Toad had found some excuse to give detention to both his sister and Ginny. The girls came to inform him, and he had no choice but to deal with her in person. "I spoke with Professor Umbridge and your detentions have been cancelled," Harry informed them. "Really? She looked so angry with us this morning," Ginny said with a frown. This was the first time she truly hated a teacher. Even Lockhart had not earned this much dislike from her. "You didn't kill her, right?" Lyra asked with suspicion. "Why does everyone keep asking me that?" Harry was beginning to show concern about his personal image. "I just spoke to her in a reasonable manner and made her see the error in her ways," he told them before walking away. This was the fourth time he had to obliviate the Toad since the year started, and he was beginning to worry about causing her some permanent mental issues. Not that he was worried for her well-being, but she needed to remain at least functional until the end of the tournament. Otherwise Voldemort will be forced to send someone more competent. "Wait, Harry," he heard Ginny call for him. "Yes? Well, I wanted to thank you for the help," Ginny said. "It was no trouble. Now you can enjoy your afternoon." Harry nodded. "Yes, if only we could play Quidditch." Ginny was still somewhat hurt by the absence of her favorite activity. The headmaster only said that there would be no Quidditch House League. "You can still play on the fields. There is plenty of space all around Hogwarts. You just have to convince a few more people to play." Harry gave her some advice. Ginny's eyes opened wide. "That's right. Why didn't I think of that? Just be a bit discreet about it. If that woman finds out that someone is having fun, she is going to add another rule," Harry told her. "Yeah, you are probably right," Ginny nodded. "Say, Harry, there was something else I wanted to ask you." "What is it?" Harry noted the girl's face becoming a bit red. "Well, would you know the weekend?" "Yes. Never mind." She took off running. Harry had a complicated expression. "Ah, she almost got it," Lyra exclaimed before jumping from behind a nearby column. "Are you a stalker now?" he asked her. "You doofus." She came to him and punched his shoulder. "Why didn't you help her? Is this how you thank me for getting you out of detention? My little sister used to have better manners than this. Don't give me that now." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "You are not that thick-headed. Ginny wanted to invite you to Hogsmeade." "She didn't though," Harry pointed out. He was already conflicted about this matter, and his sister was not helping. "You have to invite her now," Lyra said seriously. "Why are you getting involved in this?" Harry asked her. "Because she is my best friend and I want to help her," Lyra said. "Come on, you even went with Pansy last year, and don't tell me that Ginny isn't pretty. There are already plenty of guys lining up to invite her." That's not the issue here. There was no way he could explain the whole thing to her. "Just one date to Hogsmeade, please. And besides, that way we can do a double date with me and—" Lyra stopped talking. "Hold on. You? Who are you going with?" Harry's tone became slightly harsher. "That's my business. Isn't that what you always say?" Lyra seemed to enjoy this. "Just tell me who it is. It's not someone from Slytherin. It's not Michael Corner, I hope. That guy was too sleazy. You'll have to wait for the next weekend to find out." Lyra chuckled. H.A. Neville moved his eyes around, looking very nervous. So, you and my sister, Harry glared at him. He had arrived and found him standing next to Lyra and Ginny. Harry, stop it, Lyra huffed. This is why she didn't want to say anything. It's not like that. This is the first time that Neville stammered the words badly. It's our first date, okay? Lyra stood in front of Neville in a protective manner. Fine. Harry's eyes met Neville's. We'll talk about this later. Lyra hurried to push Ginny forward, as if she was some kind of offering. Isn't Ginny looking beautiful today? She got a new dress for the occasion. Of course Lyra was the one who paid for it during their previous outing. Ginny wore a long garnet-colored dress with some gold accents that reached her knees, paired with boots and a jacket in the same tones. Very Gryffindor. You look great, Ginny, Harry told her. What about me? Lyra waved at him. His sister's attire was very similar, but hers was black and silver. You look okay. Now, shall we go? Harry said. Hey, Lyra huffed. I think you look great, Neville hurried to say. Thank you. Lyra grinned. Let's go then. She grabbed his hand and began to walk out of the castle's back doors. Harry did the same, while Ginny walked at his side. Did you apply some warming charms? Otherwise, those clothes are not going to be enough. I did, we learned them last year, Ginny said. What about Lyra? She can be kinda useless with charms sometimes, he inquired. Ginny grinned. She can do this much at least. She glanced at him. You care a lot about her, huh? Of course, Harry answered without hesitation. She does make it difficult sometimes. Come on, Neville. Grab my hand harder. Are you a boy or not? Lyra shouted loud enough to make everyone nearby turn their heads. Yes, I understand that feeling. Ginny nodded. But you aren't really mad at Neville, right? He is a good boy. I can't believe everyone got mad at him for the whole tournament thing. It's so stupid. Crowds are easier to convince than individuals. And the article from the Daily Prophet calling him a cheater probably didn't help either, Harry told her. Yes, but my brother and Seamus should know better. They've been friends since first year, Ginny huffed. Your brother Ron is also an idiot, Harry said. No offense, he then added. No, he can be an idiot sometimes, Ginny said. Okay, most of the time, but I think he's just jealous. I know he wanted to be in the tournament too, she then added. I wouldn't worry too much about that. He'll change his mind as soon as he finds out what the first task is going to be. Harry told her. You know what it's going to be. Ginny's embarrassment began to vanish as she became more interested in the conversation. I could tell you, but you can't tell anyone, Harry said. Not even Lyra, especially not Lyra. Ginny nodded. That made sense. Okay, I promise. Dragons, Harry whispered. Seriously, Ginny glanced at Neville, who was walking a bit ahead on the snowy path. Does Neville know? She asked. Of course. That was not exactly true. There was no need for Neville to know what the test was, since he wasn't going to be the one participating in it. But I should give him a heads up just in case someone goes to tell him. They continued to walk at a leisurely pace until they arrived at the small village of Hogsmeade, along with many other students who also traversed the same path. Lyra and Ginny seemed to have already decided where they wanted to go, and guided the boys towards the 3 broomsticks. Harry almost let out a breath of relief when he found out they weren't going to that terrible cafe he visited last year with Daphne. The pub was already getting full, even though it was still far from lunchtime. This was likely a side effect of Miss Umbridge's endless rules and regulations. It made students feel trapped while inside the school, and Hogsmeade was the only place where they could be free. At least for now. The group went inside the place, and the atmosphere seemed to immediately change. Most of the students stopped their conversations and turned to look at them, or more specifically they were all looking at Neville. The boy felt the intense pressure already. Then the murmurs and nasty glares began. I don't like this. Ginny was becoming worried that something bad could happen. No one would dare to move a finger while inside the castle for fear of breaking some of Umbridge's rules in the process. Rumors about her harsh punishments were already well known among the students. But here in Hogsmeade, they did not have to worry about any of that. Longbottom, you have some nerve to show yourself here. A group of Hufflepuff seniors were already making their way towards them. Lyra stood in front of Neville, while she looked at the approaching group. Right behind them were Ginny and Harry. "And maybe we should go somewhere else," Neville muttered. "Look who it is, the fake champion." Cho Chang's words carried enough venom to kill an adult. She clutched at Cedric's arm with enough force to make the boy flinch. Cedric looked at Neville's group with a troubled expression. "Come on guys, let's just get along." "No, Cho is right, the fake champion deserves a lesson," a 7th-year Hufflepuff boy said. Many of the students at the table began to cheer at the comment. Harry felt the ambience of the place becoming more violent. "Looks like we won't be able to solve this one with words alone." It appeared that in the absence of Draco and his ridiculous badges, people didn't have a proper outlet for their anger. Add to that all of Umbridge's oppressive restrictions. And now the situation had reached a boiling point. Harry didn't recognize the 3 Hufflepuff boys at the front, but they were likely 7th years. He did recognize Cho Chang though. Harry hadn't thought about her since the 2nd year when Cho and some of her friends began to mess with Luna, but that quickly stopped when Lyra and Ginny stood up for their friend. It seemed like she was now dating Cedric Diggory again, and by the look on her face the girl was very upset with Neville at this moment, much like everyone else present in the pub. Harry was thinking about a way to handle this in the most peaceful way possible. After all, he was sure that Dumbledore would not be happy if he sent a bunch of students to the infirmary today. Then his sister decided to shove away one of the seniors who got too close to them. "Leave us alone, and Neville is not a fake champion. He did not cheat," Lyra shouted. "Oh yeah? Then how did his name come out after the Hogwarts champion had already been selected?" Cho asked, with a smirk. That was a question that Lyra had no answer to, so she turned to look at her brother for help. Neville did know the answer to that question, but he could not say anything. Even if he did, the reaction was bound to be a negative one. They did not even believe that he did not put his name in the goblet. Why would they believe him if he began to talk about the return of the Dark Lord without an ounce of evidence? The 2 foreign champions, Crumb and Fleur, were also present, sitting at the 2nd floor tables, from where they had a perfect view of the whole commotion. Neither of them seemed interested in joining in to support either side, and were content to just watch the Hogwarts students fight each other. "Cho is right, there is no way for you to be a champion other than cheating," one of the older boys said. "Potter, get out of the way. I can't believe you are defending him." Cho let go of Cedric's arm and got closer to Lyra. "That's enough, Cho, just leave us alone." Ginny went to stand next to her friend. "Ginny, what are you doing here?" Ron appeared from among the crowd and pointed at his sister with an angry face. "Come here right now. I can't believe you are with that traitor." "Run." Neville wore a hurt expression. He could take those comments from others, but he had considered Ron his best friend. "You two, move!" one of the Hufflepuff boys exclaimed. He had his wand in hand. "Don't think you are untouchable because some people are afraid of your brother." "Okay, let's stop right here." Harry moved in front of his sister and Ginny, standing very close to the 3 large Hufflepuff boys. "Before you lot get hurt," he then added. The 3 boys became angered, and 3 more of their classmates came closer, with the clear intention of confronting Harry. There is no need to fight. Now Cedric was getting worried. This could only end up making him look bad if some seniors began to beat students on his behalf. "That's right, there is no need to fight," Cho pointed at Neville. "All he has to do is drop out of the tournament and we can let this go." Cho. Cedric looked at his girlfriend with conflicted feelings. He had already told her that it was impossible to drop from the tournament, even though he didn't tell her the specifics about the magical contract. "I can't do that," Neville said. "So you admit it then. You wanted to be in the tournament after all." Ron joined in the conversation. "You found a way to put your name in the cup and didn't tell me anything." The redhead huffed. "So, what if he did?" Harry's words were loud enough for everyone to hear, despite not shouting. "So what? That's against the rules." "Yeah." The crowd began to complain. "Sure, the rules said that no one under the age of 17 could enter, but it's not like many of you didn't at least try." That shut down the murmurs. "I remember seeing the Weasley twins attempt to cheat their way through the age line for almost an hour, and you were all cheering for their success. So what is your complaint with Neville being chosen? It's not like he took anyone's spot." Harry pointed at Cedric. The Hogwarts champion is right there. He took the spotlight away from Cedric. Cho shouted. All the newspapers talk about the boy who lived being in the tournament. He stole all the attention from my boyfriend. I don't care that much about that, Cedric muttered. That's it? You all think Neville wanted more fame? Harry snorted. You are all being ridiculous. Harry's words made many of the pub's occupants hesitate, and they began to doubt if their motivations were correct after all. But the seniors from Hufflepuff were too angry to back down now. No, that's not enough. The cheater has to leave the tournament or else. He pulled his wand and showed it to Harry as a threat. We are going to take matters into our own hands. While Neville, Lyra and Ginny were looking concerned, Harry shook his head in disappointment. Oh well, I tried at least, so no one can complain. He looked up at the senior students. Just remember that you chose this. I'm not afraid of you, Potter. The senior moved his right hand to point his wand directly at Harry, but stopped moving soon after as if he had just become paralyzed. Cedric did not waste the chance to grab his girlfriend and drag her away from the conflict despite her complaints. What are you waiting for? Curse him. The other Hufflepuff seniors who were right behind him began to react. There is something wrong, another one said. Bloody hell, I'll do it myself. A third boy pulled his wand. Harry was not planning on letting anyone fire a single spell. After paralyzing the senior student in front of him, he slammed the palm of his hand on the boy's chest. The Hufflepuff robes of the boy were transformed into dozens of ropes made of the same fabric, and quickly wrapped around all the students that were standing behind him. What is this? I can't move. There were 6 Hufflepuff seniors in total, and now all of them had been tangled with the transfigured ropes. Harry then pulled them all together by tightening the ropes until he created a nice bundle with the 6 students. The seniors' screams changed quickly from shock to realization. Let me go. You can't do this. They began to complain. But Harry was not done with them. He moved his right hand up and touched the boy's forehead with his index finger. The Hufflepuffs had no time to react before they began to experience some unpleasant changes in their bodies. One of them found his teeth becoming larger and larger with no sign of stopping. Another one had all the hair on his body growing uncontrollably while it also changed color to a strong lime green. Bleg! One began to vomit slugs all over his housemates. Another's tongue transformed into a snake before it began to bite at his own face. Hundreds of massive pimples on one of the boys' faces began to explode, splashing a disgusting white substance over them. And the last one continued to laugh while all of this was happening, as he was feeling an uncontrollable tickling sensation all over his body and would continue to do so for a very long time. To finish things up, Harry flicked his fingers in front of them, and the boys went flying out of the tavern in time, taking the whole mess with them. The place got very quiet after that. Perhaps it would be best to go to a different location after all. Harry glanced at his sister Ginny and Neville. What do you think? That was awesome. Were those all jinxes? You have to teach me some of them. Lyra looked very excited. I think leaving is not a bad idea. Ginny glanced at her brother Ron. His face had gone pale and he was trying his best to avoid looking at Harry. Yes, I think so too. Neville did not feel comfortable with everyone staring at them. Although the looks had now become a lot more reserved and the air of hostility had disappeared completely. No one was daring to speak up now for fear of suffering the same fate as those 6 Hufflepuffs. Let's go then. Harry saw Madame Rosmerta approaching with a less than happy expression. I don't want troublemakers in my tavern. You better leave and never come back here, she shouted. Harry stopped for a moment and pulled a small pouch from one of his many pockets. The pouch grew 3 times in size until it was bigger than his palm and made some metallic noises in the process. This should compensate for the disturbance. She took it in her hands and began to open it. You rich kids think that you can fix everything with money, huh? Well, let me tell you that. She now noticed that the pouch was filled with gold galleons, and there were at least 50 of them. Is that not enough? Harry asked. A beautiful smile appeared on the face of Madame Rosmerta. That will be more than enough, Mr. Potter. Come back any time you want. Harry nodded and led the group outside. A small crowd had already begun to gather around the screaming boys, But for the moment no one was trying to help them while the Hufflepuff seniors continued to make sounds of complaint. Most of them were younger students and didn't even know where to start to remove Harry's spells, so they just watched in fascination at the spectacle. "Where do we go now?" Ginny asked while trying to avoid looking at those boys on the floor. The smell alone was enough to turn her stomach. "What about Madame Puddif?" Hogshead. Harry covered Lyra's mouth. "It's close by and is usually quiet, at least." "Isn't that a bar for adults?" Neville asked. Harry pulled another coin pouch. "I'm sure they'll let us in." Back at the Three Broomsticks, the jovial mood had not returned to normal. Most of the patrons were whispering among each other, discussing what had just happened. There were many rumors about Harry Potter already circulating in Hogwarts. Many claimed he was the powerful wizard who destroyed the Slytherin common room, and later on killed several members of very important pureblood families. This made it so most students avoided getting into conflict with Harry. But at the end of the day, those were just rumors and no one had seen him acting seriously before. That was until today, and now there were going to be a lot more rumors. On the second floor of the tavern, Krum turned to the next table, where the French champion remained silent, as if she was pondering something. "What is Miss Delacour thinking about? Are you grateful that he is not one of the champions?" There was a tone of mockery mixed in Krum's words. As usual, Fleur was accompanied by her two best friends, who came all the way from France just to cheer her on. The two girls furrowed their brows after hearing Krum's comment. "Fleur is not afraid of any British wizard, much less a boy like that one," one of them said. "Yes, and what is so impressive anyway? Those were childish jinxes. I could do those too," the other one added. Fleur clicked her tongue to show her disapproval while Krum just laughed. "Those two are not the brightest of the class." "Yes?" Krum asked. "What? How dare you?" "Enough." Fleur smacked her palm on the table. She glared at Krum. "What do you want?" "I just wanted to have a friendly conversation with another champion about something that I found interesting. That's all." Krum raised his hands up. Fleur glanced at him without saying anything for a few more seconds. "You want to know how much I noticed? Is this your way to measure the competition?" "Please. That's something that you would do. But it's not my style." Krum gave her a knowing glance. She had been using her good looks to gather information on the other participants since the first day. Of course he knew about it. "I don't care for your schemes. Go away," Fleur said. "Fine, I'll start." Krum took a seat next to one of the other girls who immediately complained. He first used a petrifying charm on the boy closest to him. "Wait, he did? When did he do that?" the two French girls asked. Fleur sighed. She knew what he was doing already. Wandless chantless, he used his left hand. Krum smiled. "Good eyes. I almost missed that one, but I found more impressive what he did next." "The ropes?" "Ah yes. He put his hand on that boy's chest and then, those ropes came out." "What spell was that?" the two girls asked Fleur. "Transfiguration," Fleur said. Krum nodded. "No chant either. He must have done a free transfiguration. One of my professors is capable of doing that, and he said to me that it is one of the most difficult feats of magic that a wizard can perform, due to how much precision it involves in controlling your own magic to shape the material to the desired form. I can do it too, as long as it's something simple," Fleur admitted, "but not without a wand." Krum saw her flinch. "Don't let it bother you. My professor can't do it wandless either. In fact, I didn't believe it was possible until today. Now that you mentioned it, he never used his wand." "Right," the girls said. "Who is he? I've never heard of him before," Fleur asked. "Then you have to get better sources for information," Krum told her. "Harry Potter has quite a bit of fame in the school. I was already hearing about him on my second day here, mostly about his time as seeker for the Gryffindor team. Apparently he broke a few records and won the House Cup that year. Then he didn't play again. Quidditch, Fleur made a disgusted face. "I also heard that one night he went into the Slytherin house by himself and made an absolute mess in there, sending several senior students to the hospital with grave injuries." Krum added. This piqued Fleur's interest. "Did he?" Krum shrugged. "It's only a rumor, you know how those are. I assume that if there was solid evidence he would have been expelled. I know Hogwarts is not that lenient with those kind of things. If he is so incredible, why isn't he in the tournament?" Fleur asked. Well, he is only 15, so he is not allowed, Krum said. Fleur raised an eyebrow. But if you want another reason, Krum added, maybe he is not interested in money and fame. Everyone has something to prove. Fleur did not like this. And she also hated the fact that, like Krum said before, she was glad that Harry Potter was not one of the champions. Let's go. She was no longer in the mood for cheap butterbeer. Huh? Already? Her friends were not very happy to leave this soon, but they still stood up. You're leaving now? We still haven't talked about the other champions, Krum said. What is there to talk about? One is a pretty boy with average skills and the other one is a little boy who should not be here. Fleur said. That's harsh. And what kind of boy am I to you? Krum had a playful smile on his face. An asshole. She pushed him aside and left towards the stairs. I am also great at Quidditch, and kinda handsome according to the girls of my fan club, Krum told her as she left. Oh well, at least I learned something new. He looked to the floor below just in time to see Cho Chang dragging Cedric out of the pub. The pretty boy is on a tight leash. It was already dark by the time that Harry returned to the castle with Lyra, Ginny and Neville. It was close to curfew, so they couldn't waste any time before returning to the common room. Harry noticed a familiar presence close by and stopped. Harry, we only have 15 minutes. Come on. Lyra turned to look at him. You guys go ahead, I'll be there soon, Harry said. The entrance to the common room was just around the corner. Okay, but just be quick. You don't want to get in trouble with that woman, Lyra said. Harry, Ginny got a bit closer. Thank you for today. I had a lot of fun. Really? I thought it was quite the mess with all those Hufflepuffs. Ginny made a complicated expression. Yes, that was a bit, but the rest of the day was very fun. They did end up spending a good time at the Hog's Head before walking around the village and visiting a few shops. So he supposed it wasn't that bad in the end. What Ginny did next took him off guard. The girl leaned closer and gave him a quick kiss on the lips. Let's do it again sometime. She did her best to cover her face before turning around. Neville's eyes were as wide as saucers while Lyra was making victory signs. Harry felt strands of magic stirring nearby and he knew he was in trouble. I know you are there, Daphne said. She looked ahead to the empty narrow hall that ultimately led to the Gryffindor common rooms. Of course you do. Harry removed his invisibility and walked closer to her. After all, you have been following me all the way from Hogsmeade, he said in a low voice, not wanting to take chances with other people hearing him. Daphne did not even attempt to deny it. After all, she had been dragging her friend Tracy all over Hogsmeade to look at what Harry had been doing and finally followed him here. Instead of that, she punched him on the shoulder. You kissed Ginny. Her face contorted in anger. As far as she was concerned, her wrongdoings were much worse than his. Your occlumency needs work. Your emotions are showing, Harry said casually. Now she slapped him. Maybe I deserve that, Harry admitted. You sure did, she spat the words. Perhaps we can take this conversation somewhere else. The halls are hardly a good location to talk right now, and curfew is just a few minutes away. He looked around. They had been lucky so far, but that was not going to last. Eventually some students were bound to pass through this same hall and spot them. Fine. Daphne could agree to this much, no matter how angry she was with him. Harry produced his wand from the holster and extended his left hand for Daphne to grab onto. The girl seemed hesitant for a moment but eventually did grab his hand, and Harry whisked them away. In a flash the duo appeared right in the middle of the inner part of the Chamber of Secrets. This should be good enough. It's clean, well illuminated and very private, Harry declared. It still smells terrible. Daphne had to cover her nose with a handkerchief. She hadn't been here since the day of the ritual, and had not been looking forward to return. Yes, poor Dobby tried his best to clean the place up. But you know, it was impossible to remove traces of so many basilisks living in this closed space for so long. All day here, dying, eating and Harry. Yes? We could have gone to that safe room that we've been using before. Remember, the safe room. That one. That is not a good idea. You see, Umbridge gave Filch a master key that can open all those unused old rooms. So it's not really so safe anymore, Harry explained. I see. Still, Daphne looked around. The chamber was completely empty except for the stains left behind by the rituals they tried the previous year. This is gross and we can't even sit here. Harry sighed. All right. He held his wand again. I'll take you somewhere else. Daphne did not hesitate to grab his hand this time. She did not want to stay here longer than necessary. In the next instant she found herself standing on a grassy hill that overlooked the castle of Hogwarts. It was already dark outside and the sky was filled with stars that gave just the right amount of light. This is beautiful. I come here sometimes when I need to think in peace, Harry said. Well, I wish we had come here sooner, Daphne huffed. Sure, but we are barely inside the school premises. He pointed behind them. Just make sure not to go past that rock over there. If you leave the wards you will trigger the tracking charm on your head, Harry suggested. Wait, there is a tracking charm on my head. Daphne didn't recall ever hearing of this before. Harry nodded. But that's not important now. You wanted to discuss something about... Right, Daphne punched his arm. You kissed Ginny. Technically she kissed me, Harry pointed out while rubbing his shoulder. The girl was stronger than she looked and it was beginning to hurt. Don't give me that. What about our deal? Deal? If you mean the contract we made with your family, it did not cover any type of compromise in that regard. It only talked about the possibility of a future marriage contract in the distant future, after both of them were 17 and considered adults. I know what the contract said, but I thought. She couldn't say it. Daphne knew she was being unreasonable, but she always had this idea in her mind that one day. So, does this mean that you and Ginny? She was unable to finish the sentence. Tears had begun to form in her eyes and even her mind protections were not able to stop her raging emotions. Harry did not like seeing this usually stoic girl looking like this. Look, there is nothing between me and Ginny. It was because of my stupid sister's meddling that today's mess happened. I don't see Ginny that way. She is more like family, I guess. He had thought about this more than a few times since he woke up in this world. Would it be possible for him to have another chance at a relationship, to get more, to have a family? But the answer to that was always the same. And even if he did, Ginny would not be the one he would choose. He had loved the Ginny Weasley from his world, the one who became his wife, and a part of him died the day she did. However, his Ginny was irreplaceable. Of course he still cared for this version of Ginny also, and he wanted her to be happy, as well as all the other members of the Weasley family, including Ron, as well as Hermione, Neville, Luna and so many others. That was as far as his feelings for this Ginny went. He cared for her like he cared for his own family. Family, is that all? Daphne repeated. She then got closer and stood in front of him. What about me? Do you also see me as just family, or is there something more? That's... Harry hesitated to answer. If you tell me that it's complicated, I will punch you again, Daphne warned him. It is difficult to say. She punched him. That hurt, Harry complained. You deserve it. I want you to tell me straight. What do you think of me? Very well. I'll tell you the truth. Harry got serious. But you must keep this to yourself. Daphne tilted her head. What do you to keep it to myself? The world is ending, Harry told her. Huh? That was not what she expected to hear. Not just this world, but every world in the multiverse is ending, Harry added. The multiverse? You never told me about this. Wait, are you making this up to change the topic? Daphne asked. Of course not. This is very important. At one point in time there was only one single world, but after time travel was invented, the world began to shatter into fragments that gave birth to different worlds, each one with a few differences compared to the others, like the world that you came from. That's right, Harry nodded. That was just one of many. And what makes you think that the world is ending? Daphne was still somewhat skeptical about this, and still wasn't sure if this was Harry's way to avoid an important topic. Since the moment I woke up here, there have been strange events occurring all over the world, more often in places with large magical concentrations, Harry said. You mean like Hogwarts? A lot of strange things happened at the school, to the point that she already considered them kinda normal occurrences. Yes, or the train station, Hogsmeade, Diagon Alley. There are many places like that. And what are those strange events exactly? She still wasn't sure where he was going with all of this. Those events are situations where two or more realities get too close to each other, and one reality begins to bleed onto another one. At first they were small things, like briefly seeing other versions of myself or my friends, but things got more serious at the end of my second year, with the basilisk, Harry explained. Wait. Daphne was getting a bit concerned now. You mean that monster was the result of one of those events? She never got a proper explanation for what happened in her second year. What happened in the Chamber of Secrets was the result of countless basilisks from different worlds converging in the same pace. This is why Professor Silverbell coined these strange events as convergences. Who? He is an expert found by the headmaster to help us figure out what happened. Professor Silverbell is the director of the Time Department at the Ministry of Magic. Time Department? I didn't even know that existed, Daphne said. Not many would. It is part of the Department of Mysteries, Harry said. And this professor is the one who claimed that these convergences are causing the end of the world. Harry shook his head. All of those events are nothing more than symptoms that point towards the disease. The reason they are happening is because realities are beginning to collide with each other. Once the collision is strong enough, the result will be that one of them will cease to exist, or even both in the worst-case scenario. This process will continue until only a single world remains. Or not. Harry, you are scaring me. Daphne frowned. I am sorry, I know it's a lot and it's hard to accept, but there may be a way to stop this process. That's what we've been working on. And what is the solution? According to Professor Silverbell, the reason for this happening is the creation of too many alternate timelines. There is a limited amount of energy and matter, so when too many worlds try to exist at the same time, it eventually becomes too much and this chain reaction begins. Okay, I think I understand that much, Daphne said. So we have already reached this critical point. That's the problem. Things shouldn't have gotten this bad for at least several centuries from now. Several centuries? Then what is causing this now? Daphne asked. Harry had a weary smile on his face. That would be me. Excuse me, Daphne raised an eyebrow. You will have to explain that one better. Time travel is the main cause of all of this. The more important the change is made, the more damage it causes to the walls of reality. My appearance here has already caused changes that affected the entire multiverse. I became an anomaly large enough to cause an imbalance in all reality, and now everything is collapsing earlier than expected because of that. Wait, if you are the one causing it, then this solution of yours. Daphne could already see where this was going. There is only one way to stop this process, and that is to remove the anomaly. In other words, me, Harry said. You can't be serious. Daphne stared at him. Dead serious. How much time? Daphne asked. There is no clear answer to that. The professor said at least a few more years, but the sooner I do it, the higher the chance for this world to survive. Harry said. And you are sure that's the only solution? I mean, have you even tried to look for an alternative? Daphne was beginning to get furious. Daphne, we have B. Don't give me that. You are such a Gryffindor. Don't be in such a hurry to throw your life away, she shouted. Harry sighed. He was expecting a reaction like this. That's why he had never told his family and would rather never have to do it. I assure you that I am in no hurry to do that, Harry said. But you don't even have a guarantee that this would work, Daphne said. No, but I do have the guarantee that if nothing is done, this world will end in a few years, and everyone will die. If my death can give everyone a chance, this is for the greater good. He wasn't going to let another world die for his mistakes. Bloody hell, Harry. At least get a second opinion, Daphne exclaimed. Did I just hear Daphne Greengrass saying bloody hell? Harry asked. Can you be serious for a moment? She huffed. I already am. The wisest wizard and the #1 expert in time magic are already working on it. If there is an alternative solution, they will find it. If there isn't, I am prepared to do what is necessary to protect the ones I care about. Is that serious enough for you? After a moment of silence, she spoke again. Have you told your family about this? Daphne asked. Only Dumbledore knows, and maybe Silverbell managed to figure it out. And now, I hope it stays that way. At least for now, Harry said. Daphne looked to him with a conflicted expression. So, this is your reason for avoiding getting close to people? I don't avoid getting close to people, I just enjoy the moment. He told her. She scoffed. You totally avoid getting too close to anyone, and you still haven't answered my first question. What was that again? Daphne furrowed her eyebrows. I asked you how you feel about me. You already know my side. I need to hear yours and no more going on tangents about world-ending events. She leaned closer to him. That tangent was relevant, he retorted. Harry, she had a serious expression on her face. Her blue eyes almost seemed to shine under the stars. You are an extremely beautiful and intelligent girl. Any guy would fall for you, although sometimes you are too stubborn, and you also get violent at the— She hit him. Don't ruin the moment. Fine, you wanted a clear answer and you do deserve one. I consider you my closest friend, of course. I have feelings for you. However, no, you can stop there. I'll take it, she said with a soft grin. Huh, you'll take what? Now it was Harry's turn to be confused. I know what you're going to say, that because you have limited time you don't want any compromise. Daphne said. That would be correct. That's why I revealed everything to you. So you can understand my reasoning. I didn't want to hurt you. Harry told her. I understand, and I said that I'll take it. Whatever time you have left, I'd rather have you for a short time than none. Daphne looked completely serious as she said that. That sounds like a recipe for disaster, Harry said. I don't care. You will regret that decision. I don't care. Okay, Harry finally said. It appears there was no convincing her to change her mind. And, what do we do now? Daphne seemed to be considering it for a moment. Why don't you ask me out properly? You are from a traditional pure-blood family. Don't I need to speak with your father and sign a contract or something? Daphne chuckled. Actually, normally you would need his permission to court me, something that he has denied to everyone who asked so far. But I think we can do this the informal way. Our families already have an alliance after all. That works for me. I hate those formalities. So do you want to go out for coffee or something? Daphne lifted an eyebrow. Maybe a bit more formal than that, she decided. You are so difficult sometimes. Daphne Greengrass, would you do me the honor of being my girlfriend? A beaming smile appeared on her face. I would love to. She wrapped her arms around his neck. There is one more formality to perform, she added. Harry placed his hands around her waist and brought her closer. Their bodies were touching. He approached his lips to hers, just 2/3 of the way there, and then waited. Daphne did not want to waste any time and pushed her lips into his. The kiss lasted for almost a minute. It was moist and sweet, but also chaste and pure, as this was the first one of many to come. When they finally separated, they both looked happy. So, is it official now? Daphne asked. Of course, but there is something I want to ask you, Harry said. Sure, what is it? She said. Do you mind if we keep this between us for now? Daphne was not too surprised by the request. I don't mind, but why are you asking? I know you are not worried about the reaction from Slytherin. Everyone there is afraid of you. And after today, it would just be worse. It's not the students that I worry about, but their families. If word gets out that you are with a Gryffindor, it would just make things more difficult for your own family, Harry said. It would also make them more likely to be attacked if their alliances are revealed. Voldemort would be too busy still to go after neutral families, but others may try something in an attempt to earn his favor. I also would like the opportunity to clear things up with Ginny. I don't want to hurt her, Harry said. Daphne nodded. I agree on that. This was also better for her, as she didn't want her father to find out like this. That would only get her into trouble. I just wish I could tell Tracy. Can she keep a secret? Harry asked. Better than Lyra. That's not saying much. Harry frowned. But not too much better, Daphne added. I mean, you can tell Astoria and Luna. Your sister barely talks and no one ever believes anything that Luna says. Harry commented. So does this mean we can't go out on dates? She looked a bit upset at the thought. Not to Hogsmeade, but I can take you to other places. Really? Like where? Daphne got more excited now. There are a few other magical communities here in England, but before that we will need to remove the tracking charm on your head. Wait, that was actually true? Oh, I'm very nervous. Harry was shaking like a leaf and kept muttering stuff while wandering around the office. Calm down, Neville. If you start to act like this in public, people will notice that something is off, Neville said with a deep frown. He then turned back to the full-body mirror that the headmaster had set up for them. He wanted to make sure that the transformation had no flaws and that his robes were well adjusted. Come here, let me take a look at you, he told the other boy. Harry composed himself and approached Neville. This is so strange, I'm looking at myself. Okay, everything seems fine, Neville said after a quick inspection. There is no need for much worry. Most of the attention will be on the tests, so no one should look at you twice. Just don't be too obvious, Neville said. But I don't know how to act like you at all. We are going to get caught. Harry looked extremely nervous and worried. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I must say, it is very bizarre seeing a Harry act in such a way. Dumbledore chuckled while watching the scene from his seat. Longbottom, Snape stood up from his seat and walked to him. Just act like an annoyed brat who looks down on everyone and keep your mouth shut. No one will notice the difference. Yes. Very professional advice, Professor Snape. Neville rolled his eyes. But the part about keeping your mouth shut is not a bad suggestion. Don't say anything unless someone asks you something. And keep your answers short, like yes, no or I don't care. Harry nodded repeatedly. Yes, no, I don't care, he repeated his words. I'll try, but then he seemed to recall something else. But what if the potion effect runs out before the test is over? I read that the polyjuice effect can last anything from 12 minutes to 12 hours. That would depend on the skill of the brewer, Snape pointed out. Hopefully Potter didn't make this himself, otherwise 12 minutes would already be a miracle. Neville snorted. Not at all, I got these from a reliable source. They were brewed by a well-known and respected master potioner from Wales. And they have a guaranteed effect of 6 hours or I'll get my money back, he said with confidence. Let me see that. Snape picked up one of the vials and examined the label. Master Rugal created these. He recognized the unique symbol on the vial. This was the equivalent of a potion master's signature. He always sells his potions at exorbitant prices. Yes, well, it is good to have some money then, Neville remarked. I'm sorry to interrupt this lovely conversation between professor and student, but there is only 1 hour left before the tournament starts and Mr. Longbottom is expected to be ready at the field. Dumbledore decided to remind them. Here, take this with you. Neville placed a flask inside Harry's inner pocket. It's an extra dose of the potion just in case. If you feel the effects disappearing, take a sip from the flask. Harry nodded. He felt a bit better now. Remember the plan. Just go to the stands and sit next to Lyra and Ginny. They are waiting for you. Try not to stand out too much and keep the talking to a minimum. This is difficult, Harry muttered. Would you rather fight a dragon? Neville asked. No, no thank you. Harry gave a sigh of relief. Speaking of the dragon, Dumbledore glanced at Neville. Try to avoid killing it, please. We will be charged an extra fine if one of them dies. I wasn't planning to. He noticed the judgmental stare. Look, I don't go around killing everything that moves, okay? Neville said defensively. Come on, we better get going. He spoke before he walked towards the open window at the back of the office. What are you doing? Harry almost jumped out of shock. I'm taking a shortcut to the Quidditch fields. As he said that, a black circle appeared next to his hand, and from within it he produced a flying broom. Without saying another word, Neville jumped out. How handy! Dumbledore noticed that this was the same space ability that Harry had previously shown him. It seems that he had already found other uses for it, the headmaster thought. What magic was that? Snape said. Wow! How did he do that? Harry stared in awe. Mr. Potter, unless you are planning on doing the same thing, I suggest you get going. There is a 15-minute walk to the fields. Dumbledore said. Yes, sir. Harry took off immediately and left the headmaster's office. Severus, you and I should do the same. We both have roles to play today, Dumbledore reminded him. Yes, I have not forgotten, Snape lamented. He was to keep very close to Madame Umbridge and Professor Rookwood, and pay close attention to any strange movement on their part, at least for the duration of the tournament's first trial. While Neville flew to the location of the tests, Harry was walking at a brisk pace. He didn't want to be late, otherwise the stadium would be filled and it would be more difficult to find his seat next to Lyra and Ginny. There you are, Harry heard someone say. Right then, the door of a broom closet opened as he was about to pass by. A hand came out of it and grabbed onto his arm, dragging him inside. He felt someone pushing him against the back of the closet, and quickly closed the door. At first he thought someone was pranking him. After all, this would not be the first time someone locked him inside one of these closets. But he then remembered that he was Harry now. Who would dare to attack Harry? He then quickly realized that the person who dragged him in here was also inside along with him. You made me wait, Harry, Daphne said in a soothing tone. But you are. Harry stammered the words. His entire body was shaking. Seeing a girl throwing herself at him was the last thing he expected to happen. I know we weren't supposed to see each other until tonight. Daphne wrapped her arms around his neck and leaned closer. But I couldn't wait. The other day was so much fun. I just wanted to give you a reward for that wonderful date. Her face was mere inches away from his.
Why, you're Greengrass.
Harry finally recognized the girl. He was more familiar with her sister Astoria, but Daphne would sometimes come talk with Lyra and Ginny while he was there. What? Daphne pulled herself away from Harry.
Why did you call me by my last name?
There was something wrong here. Harry was behaving very strangely. I'm not. You're not what? Daphne's tone became more serious as she let go of him. I'm not Harry, he finally managed to say. What? Daphne's wand was already in her hand. She pointed it at his neck. You better have a good explanation. Who are you? Her tone was now cold as ice. Neville felt terrible. It had been less than 10 minutes and he had already revealed the secret. I'm sorry. He was mostly saying that to Harry. Who are you? Daphne's tone became more pressing. I'm Neville Longbottom. We have talked a few times, remember? Longbottom, why are you? At that moment something snapped in Daphne's mind. She recalled the case filled with polyjuice potions that had been given to Harry. When she asked about it, he just told her that she would find out soon enough. If Longbottom is pretending to be Harry, then where is Harry? She asked with urgency. Well, Neville made a troubled expression. I'm not supposed to tell anyone. They made me promise, he begged. He's going to take your place at the tournament. Daphne could make an educated guess at this point. This sounded like something Harry would do. Just say yes or no. I won't ask anything else from you. Why yes, Neville admitted. Damn it. Why didn't he tell me? She looked about ready to punch him. Neville panicked. I'm not him. Neville felt the need to remind her. She was scarier than Professor Snape right now. Please don't make that face. I'm not going to hurt you, Longbottom. I know this is not your fault, Daphne said. I guess Harry dragged you into this whole tournament thing. It's not like that. Harry and the headmaster are just trying to help me, Neville said. The headmaster is involved in this too, Daphne said. No. Neville covered his mouth. He did not want to reveal anything else. Okay, you can go now. I'll talk to him later, Daphne told him. He sighed in relief and went to open the door. She placed a hand on the door. What happened here today? Daphne's eyes were locked onto his. I won't say anything, he promised immediately. Good boy, she nodded. Go on. It's best if we are not seen together. Neville didn't need to be told twice. He hurried out of the broom closet and almost ran to the Quidditch field. He hoped that was the scariest thing that would happen to him today. Daphne closed the door behind her and stared in the direction that Harry had left. What in Merlin's name are you planning to do? Good. Mr. Longbottom is finally here. Barty Crouch Sr. rushed to his side as soon as he entered the large tent, and wrapped an arm around his shoulder, bringing him further inside. Now that all the champions are here, we can explain what this test will be about. Neville moved ahead, closer to the rest of the group. The other 3 champions were staring at him. Cedric looked almost apologetic. He still felt bad for what happened that day at the 3 broomsticks. Even though things ended quickly, thanks to Harry's intervention, the Hufflepuff students had continued to make his life difficult, or at least as much as possible, since no one dared to raise a finger to him. So it was mostly an occasional shoulder bump here or a mean comment there. Neither Fleur nor Crumb had much of an opinion about Neville. They did not see him as a threat at all, so they mostly ignored him. And after learning more about the boy, they were more than willing to believe that he didn't put his name inside the goblet. Fleur reached the conclusion that someone put his name in the tournament just to show the world that the famous boy who lived was nothing like the stories. Krum would have reached the same conclusion if it wasn't for his headmaster. Igor Karkaroff had been a follower of the Dark Lord, and he knew there was a good chance that his old master had a hand in this matter. So he told Krum to remain as far as possible from Neville Longbottom as he could, lest he get involved in something nefarious while dragging his headmaster along. Well then, let's see. Barty Crouch went to open a large chest that had been placed at the back of the tent, but he seemed to be struggling with the lock. Wallafell, come here and open this thing for me, he demanded. Percy Weasley became a bit embarrassed for being called by the wrong name for the 100th time, but he no longer had the will to correct his boss. Yes, sir? Percy got the lock sorted in a few seconds and opened the chest. The champions leaned forward, trying to peek at its contents, even though they all knew what the test was about, except for one person. Cedric Diggory was the only one who remained clueless. Dumbledore didn't even consider telling him, as his mind was occupied with more important matters, and his head of house was too honorable to break the rules. Barty was about to take the sack when it began to move. You take it, he told his assistant. Yes, sir. Percy did not seem to like the task, but obeyed in the end. He pulled the brown sack out and allowed everyone to take a good look. Now is time for the reveal. Barty unfastened the knot that was holding the sack closed. Who goes first?